Today's a Chodesh Sivan, friends. Today is the day when the Yidden arrived at Har Sinai to receive the Torah, which we're going to talk about. All right, we'll begin now. So the right hand, not the right hand, you have it on your phone, so I'll tell you which text we're looking at. The middle text. Want to get that up? Go to your phone and get the Friday at 5. Although, no, I'm looking at my messages. That's not going to help me. Okay, so the middle text there reads, because as you can see, it's pasuk number 4, and the one above that is pasuk 5 and 6. This is this week's parsha. The following is the service of the sons of Kahas. Kahas was the eldest son of Levi, and basically Levi was the father of all the Leviim. That's what they called Leviim, and all the Kohanim. And there were 3 clans. And Kahas was the oldest brother, the highest, most noble, most elevated, of which Moishe and Aaron were members. Levi had a son Kahas, and then Amram had Moishe and Aaron and others. Okay? So what was there? So the different clans, 3 general groups. So the sons of Kahas, this is their service with respect to the Oyel Moed, the tent of meeting, the Mishkan, the sanctuary, the Holy of Holies. So look in Rashi's commentary. So what's their service? What did it address? The holiest of all, their responsibility was to look after and carry, when they traveled, the ark, the golden table, the menorah, the altars, the dividing curtain that separated between the Holy of Holies and the Holy and the rest of the Mishkan, and the service utensils. So all the sacred vessels, including, I want to point out, the dividing curtain, this was their responsibility to take and carry in the journey when the Jews traveled from one place to the other. And then the Torah goes on to describe the other 2 clans got the more external components, the boards, the buildings, and so on. Not the buildings, the boards and the bases and so on of the Mishkan. All right? They got the most elevated vessels, component of the Mishkan to look after. Just going to close the door there. I'll do it. Got it. Okay. Verse 5. So when the camp is about to travel, Aaron and his sons, this is the Kahas, that's that clan, shall come and take down the dividing screen. With it, they shall cover the ark of the testimony. So they're covering the holy ark that contains the 10 commandments with the curtain that divided between the Holy of Holies and the rest of the sanctuary. That's one cover. Then the Torah goes on to say in pasuk number 6, 2 more covers. They shall place upon it a covering of the tachash skin, which is a certain hide of an animal that had multicolored skin. On top of that, they shall spread a cloth of pure blue wool. Then they put the poles, insert the poles in the rings on the side of the ark, and that's how they carried it. So you notice that there are 3 coverings. So let me tell you, friends, that these 3 coverings represent 3 levels of covering over our own souls as we come into this world. We face 3 challenges, as it were, 3 levels of concealment. What are these 3 levels of concealment that we face? And as we'll see at the end, the beauty here is that our journey in life, right? This is when they would travel in the desert. In our journey in life, we're going to face these three challenges and overcome them ultimately. And that's the point of the journey. Remaining stationary, we don't grow. We grow, we journey through. Integral to the journey are these three covers, these three challenges, these three concealments. What are they? So to understand that, we're going to look at the quote on the last quote. The last quote is from the Gemara, the Talmud, as follows. Now, just to tell you that this week's Parshat Bamidbar is always read on the Shabbos before Shavuot, which means contained in this week's Parsha uniquely profound instructions and inspiration with respect to the grand total mission of the Jew, which began with the giving of the Torah. So we're going to revisit these three coverings, understand that that's part of our overall mission. To understand that, let's look at the following description of the debate, the dialogue, the debate, the argument between Moishe Rabbeinu and the angels on high. When you don't have the whole quote in front of us, I just quoted the salient part. When Moishe Rabbeinu was on high to receive the Torah, the angels protested. They said, God, what are you doing? Your treasure that precedes creation, you're giving to mortal man? How could you do such a thing? To know your glory should be revealed and remain reserved exclusively for heaven, for us, who will appreciate your Torah. Give it to us, not to man. And this is all happening as Moshe Rabbeinu is atop Mount Sinai and enters into the heavenly realms. So let's read the text. Said the Holy One, blessed be he, to Moshe, give them an answer. Moshe said before the Almighty, Master of the world, I'm fearful lest they burn me with the breath in their mouths. Hashem said to him, grasp hold of my throne of glory and give them an answer. I'm not going to explain these details. We don't mean this physically. It's all spiritual. But at any rate, Moshe felt incapable of answering until God told him to grasp his throne of glory. And now he says, so empowered, he responds, and he victoriously, the angels are forced to concede. This is what he said to them. In fact, he didn't even talk to them. He talked to God, and they overheard the conversation. Moishe said before him, Master of the world. It's interesting, right? God says, answer the angels, and Moishe first says, grasp onto my throne, and then he starts to respond, but not to the angels, to God, and they're listening and they concede. I'm not explaining all of this, but it's significant. It's telling. There's a message right there in how to win a debate. At any rate, a real debate, a real challenge. Master of the world, the Torah that you are giving me, what is written in it? Is written, I am Hashem, your God, who has taken you out of the land of Egypt. Now he turns to the angels and says, Moshe said to the angels, did you descend to Egypt? Were you enslaved to Pharaoh? Why should the Torah be yours? Again, he turns to God. What else is written there? There shall not be unto you the gods of others. Don't serve idols. Says Moshe now to the angels, do you live among the nations who worship idols? What else is written there, says Moshe Rabbeinu, as he turns to the Almighty. Remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it. Turning to the angels, do you engage in labor from which you need to rest? Honor your father and mother. Do you have a father and mother? You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. Is there envy among you? Is there an evil inclination among you? Do you have a Yetzirah, in the words of the Gemara? And he concluded his argument with those words. Immediately the angels conceded to the Holy One, blessed be he, that the Torah should be given to mortal man. Now, friends, if we pay attention to Moshe Rabbeinu's response in pointing out why the Torah is intended for mortal man and not for angels, we can put all of his illustrations into three general categories. We can slot them into three categories. Number one, he says, do you work? Do you have to rest? Do you do business? Do you have a father or mother? Now, what are all these three things pointing to? A physical, natural life, work for a living, rest on Shabbos, therefore, a father and mother. That's how we come naturally into the world. So what does this mean? He's saying the soul is addressing the first garment that the Aron, the Holy Ark, which represents the soul, you and I, the Holy of Holies, is covered with. The first thing that the soul we need to contend with in this world just is nature. This is normal, this is nature, make a living, honor parents. Now, this is not a terrible concealment. It's nothing, they did not present these challenges in themselves, did not represent something contrary to the will of God, that you're born with a physical father, mother you need to honor, and you ought to work and make a living. This is still, my dear friends, if that's all we have to contend with in life, just that alone, so the world is still, it's a very beautiful, not such terribly challenging place. Yes, we're dealing with the physical body, there's a need to work, etc., but it's all innocent. It's all innocent. That's one category. Category one means challenge. One is soul coming into a body, still a concealment. The body conceals the soul. That's the first covering of the ark. It's covered by the tapestry of the Holy of Holies. It's a holy covering. To honor parents doesn't need, everybody understands this. This is the right thing to do, and there isn't such a big challenge to do that. To engage in business in a moral, proper way, it's not such a huge challenge, friends, or should not be. Because long term, your name as an ethical businessman is what's going to carry you in the long term. It's not such a big challenge. It is. It's a concealment. The soul comes into a body, but that's level number one. But then we have to contend with more than that. The next category Moishe Rabbeinu speaks about challenges that we have and angels don't. First challenge is we're just born into the physical world with the physical needs. You don't have that. Level one. Not such a terrible challenge. Not so difficult. But then he talks about, do you have jealousy? Do you have a Yetzer Hara? Do you lust? Do you desire? Are you envious? Oh, this is a whole new concealment we have to struggle with. Not just our natural instinct, not just nature, and engage the world naturally in a refined moral way. That's one thing. Now we have to deal with the Yetzer Hara that's pulling us in not just natural, innocent areas, but sinful. That's a much bigger challenge. That's the second covering of the ark. Yetzer Hara, temptation that we face every day, that wants us to do contrary to Hashem's will. But we're not denying God at this point. But then there's a third challenge. The final thing he says to the angels, if we categorize his response is, do you live amongst the nations of the world that you're going to be tempted to serve idols? We can get so caught up with physicality that we worship it. We forget about God altogether. That's the third covering that covers and wraps around the ark. You can't even see the ark at all. You don't even know there's an ark inside. That's the biggest challenge we face. That's the third coverings. Now, it corresponds to really three epochs in our history. Beginning of our history, certainly in the desert and in Israel, when there was prophets, we're in the world, but the world is illuminated to a large degree by the divine hand of God was obvious. If you sinned, you got punished. If you did mitzvahs, you did rewarded. You still got to deal with nature. but not such, the world didn't offer such a big test. But then came exile, the Yetzer Hara, much bigger challenge. And then in exile itself, dispersed amongst the nations of the world, facing assimilation, the temptation of assimilation. I just read, I didn't know this, it's just history, a little bit of American Jewry. Do you know that in the talking the early late 1800s, believe it or not, America did not have an immigration policy. There was no restrictions. Anybody could come. You know how many Jews came from Russia alone to America because of the pogroms and also because of the new Tsar? After Alexander was murdered, he was benevolent largely towards the Jews. Alexander, the new king, the new Tsar was a tyrant, Nikolai II, I think, whatever. So Jews, there were pogroms and there were terrible decrees. And so Jews immigrated in mass to America. You know how many Jews came to America, friends, in those years? 2 million. 2 million. In 1923 is when America started to impose immigration limitations. So then the doors are open. Anybody can come. If you made it, even poor Jews, there was the steamboats, weren't that expensive, and there was the railroad system was already put in place in Russia. 2 million Jews came to America. You do the math, if they would have remained connected, how many in America today? Assimilation, the biggest challenge. That's idolatry, worshiping the dollar. They didn't mean to, but that's it. They had to make a living. That's when Shabbos went, kosher went. Mind you, you should know that there were hundreds, if not thousands, hundreds of shuls in New York alone. Shuls there were. It still needed this place to go on high holidays and connect and Shabbos. The politics is interesting, but and there were many Chabad shuls. Tzemach Tzedek had 600,000 chassidim. What happened to them? Many of them immigrated to America and they're lost. Their children were discovering, some of their grandchildren here in Montreal. Chabad going back generations. That's another story that came during that wave. So that's the third challenge, friends. The third challenge is not you're an observant Jew. You have a Yetzer Hara. Okay, don't look here, don't do that. But basically, you're on track. The third challenge is a completely abandonment. That's what Golus represents. Entices us, worship the dollar, assimilation, and literally disappear, God forbid. So these are the three categories and the three epochs in history. This is a recent challenge. It's only now, America, the free world, democracy, that has given this challenge to the Jew to disappear, God forbid, altogether. So that's the three coverings. Nature is one. To have to deal with nature is one thing. The body conceals the soul. You got to see through it. It's not so difficult. Living a moral life, if that's the whole challenge, is just nature. Then Yetzer Hara, that's a bigger challenge. And then is the great melting pot. The nations of the world, idolatry. So that, friends, corresponds to the three coverings of the ark. But here's the big, incredible news. When did they cover the ark? As I told you before, when they journeyed. What does journey mean? Journey means going higher and higher. Where are they journeying in the desert? Getting to the promised land, to the Holy Land, going to Israel. They're going towards redemption. Had they merited, that would have been redemption then. Had things gone, in theory, without any hitches, Moishe wouldn't have died. He was the first Redeemer, the last Redeemer, and they go to Israel, and it's all over the Messianic year. It wasn't meant to be. For God's plan, it's going to go deeper, more difficult. In the words of Leonard Cohen, you want it darker. But what's the big message here? The only way to journey and get to your promised land personally and to Mashiach is through facing these challenges. When the ark was stationary in the Mishkan, it wasn't covered. If a person is just going to put himself in an ivory tower and just not move and not budge, fine. That's it, maintenance. But if you want to grow, there's going to be challenges. And the more you grow, the greater the challenges. And the challenges will be on these three levels, as Moishe Rabbeinu said to the angels. We categorize all of his responses reflected by the three coverings. You have to deal with nature, deal with the Yetzer Hara, and have to deal with the world, the nations of the world that will seek to absorb and assimilate us. or tell us. We'll seek to melt into them because actually what's happening today is they're not letting us assimilate. This is the end of Golus, where the nations, where till now America has been the great melting pot. America's turned on the Jew and says, you're different. Because Hashem is saying, enough. But that's been the challenge till now. But what's the big news? That's the only way to grow. That's how you journey. It's going to be difficult, and you will overcome. The challenges just of living naturally, the challenges of a passionate, angry, lustful, lazy Yetzer Hara. It's lots of weapons in its arsenal, lots of bows in its quiver. You got to deal with all of that. If not just that, the nations of the world and assimilation to worship the dollar. You'll deal with that. You'll journey. You'll overcome it, and you'll reach the promised land. And that's why this is read always in the Shabbos before the giving of the Torah, because the Torah is hinting here, with the Torah, you have the power to overcome all these challenges, and that's the point of the challenges. That's the way to grow. That's the way to arrive at redemption. That's why this is read always in the Shabbos before Shavuos. All right, friends, somewhat clear?
Very clear, very nice.
All right, have a wonderful Yom Tov. Listen,